Leah's picture will be bigger.
Well, good morning. I want to welcome everybody. It's morning, it's afternoon, it's evening, wherever you are on the globe. Today, morning meeting, we're remembering HaShoah. HaShoah means gathering from the whirlwind. In English, we call it a Holocaust Remembrance Day. And Holocaust is a Greek word meaning sacrifice by fire. And during the Holocaust, 6 million Jews were killed, and many of them literally sacrificed in ovens of Germany and Poland and Austria, Slovenia, Croatia, and Belarus. So there were many people who were complicit in the worst crime in human history. But the majority who enabled this unimaginable tragedy to happen were the bystanders. The bystanders were the people on the sidelines who didn't get involved to stop it, perhaps out of fear of their own lives, perhaps willful ignorance, perhaps sheer indifference to these people who weren't like them. Perhaps many supported what was happening but didn't want to be directly connected to it. Whatever the reasons were, bystanders at any time or culture who remain on the sidelines are the very ones who allow injustice, corruption, violence, and evil to flourish. So just because an episode in history like the Holocaust took place long ago, it does not mean that we stop asking questions about it, about the people whose stories are told that we remember, like our guest speaker this morning, and about what our assumptions about history mean for our lives today. So we must continue to ask questions about the past, and when doing so, especially when doing so, challenging our understanding of how something unfolded. Whether we view history as the Harvard philosopher George Santayana said, those who do not remember history are condemned to relive it, or we view it as Mark Twain said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. We know it is still very important to study history so we don't make the same mistakes again as we strive together to build a more just, a more equitable, a more sustainable world. Sadly, the issue of the Holocaust, issues raised by the Holocaust are not consigned to our past. Genocide, a word invented to give voice to the fate of the Armenians during World War I and the Jews in World War II, is a crime that is outlawed by the United Nations. Unfortunately, perhaps not on the same scale, but unfortunately it has happened again in places like Cambodia, the Balkans, Rwanda, and even refugees today are fleeing oppression and near certain death, as they are still unwanted in most places on the globe, like the Jews were in the 1930s and 40s. Regrettably, today, there is still inter-religious hatred and intra-religious conflict. So the study of the Holocaust is not easy, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. To understand this event, we have to confront death. Yet the study of death is in the service of life. The study of this evil is intended to strengthen the decency and the goodness that is in all of us. The Holocaust challenges our most cherished beliefs: faith in God, secular faith in human decency, faith in the inevitability of progress, and even in Martin Luther King Jr.'s teachings that the long arc of history bends toward justice. The Holocaust provides few answers and raises many questions, but these questions we must ask ourselves so we can engage in the moral struggle in any time against evil. And this is why we study Holocaust history. We read Holocaust literature like Elie Wiesel's Night, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, Anne Frank's Diary, and the writings of Primo Levi and many others. So we want to educate ourselves in mind, in heart, and soul so that we do not repeat the horrors of the past. And this is why the Albert family has established an endowed fund to invite a Holocaust speaker every year to address our community on HaShoah. And that is why our young, beautiful 94-year-old Holocaust survivor, my new friend, Miss Leah Linton, is here to speak to you now. And I want to give a warm welcome to you, Leah. Welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Okay. Am I on?
You are on, Leah.
I'm on. Hello, Taft School and others. I'm actually flattered to be invited. At my age, I should be settling down with a good knitting and just forget about the world. But I can't do that. I can't forget about the world, and I can't certainly forget about the Holocaust. I will tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Austria. My name is Leah Linton. And instead of having to guess my age, I will tell you that I'm 94 years old, or young, whatever you want. And I'm one of the last generation, I am of the last generation of Holocaust survivors. I was born in Vienna, Austria, where my childhood was a happy one, playing with my older brother and sister in the beautiful parks of Vienna. And I had many friends. At the age of 12, my happy childhood changed from one day to the other. Hitler occupied Austria in 1938, and my best friend came to tell me that we could not be friends any longer because I was Jewish. I obviously did not know and understand that being Jewish was a crime, and I cried. Overnight, best friends, neighbors, teachers turned out to be enemies because that was Hitler's philosophy to rid Germany, Austria, and all the other countries he occupied of the Jewish people. It is hard to understand that people can turn overnight to beasts, and that is exactly what happened. Concentration camps were established where millions of Jews were gassed, tortured, and murdered. My brother was arrested on the terrible November 10th, Kristallnacht, when the Nazis burned down all the synagogues, and he was shipped to the concentration camp Dachau, where he spent 6 months and barely survived. Families started to send their children away with the hope that they could be saved. My sister was sent to Israel with a youth transport, and younger children were sent with a kinder transport to England. And most of these children never saw their parents again. People tried desperately to immigrate to other countries that would take them in. My mother and I came to the United States, where my mother had relatives. But my father could not join us because he was born in Hungary, and the Americans said that the quota from that country was closed. He had to stay behind, and he became one of the victims of Auschwitz, where he was killed. And that is how 6 million Jews lost their lives. I hope history will never forget this, that it was not a virus that killed so many people. Today we're faced with another problem, an enemy we cannot see, and puts people into danger no matter what their race or religion is. Thousands of people are losing their lives, and families their relatives. Will we recover from this nightmare and be able to touch and hug each other again? Will people be kinder to each other and learn from this terrible experience that we're all God's children.
Leah, I want to thank you for your message. It's so wonderful to have you here. And in many ways, you've been really blessed in your life. You've told me about your children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren, a husband who was a physics professor at Princeton, and so many incredible things. But yet, you've lived through so much. I'm wondering, that experience with your friend, that must have been so difficult to suddenly overnight have your friend, who was your dear friend, turn against you like that. Suddenly, I can't be friends with any longer because you're Jewish. How did you handle that? Why did that happen? How could that possibly happen?
It was that a question? Then you have to say it slower. Say it again and slower, please.
Oh, so it must have been very difficult to lose that friend of yours that you were so close, and then she found out that you were Jewish, and suddenly overnight she couldn't be your friend anymore.
No, that's right. That was my first shock, really, at the age of 12. And I said to her, but we were friends yesterday, and 4 years ago when we met, I was Jewish. She said, that doesn't matter. Right now, we cannot be friends anymore. And that's the way it happened. Friends became enemies, and they were ready to do whatever Hitler expected them to do to the Jews. And it was terrible. 6 million is a big number that we'll never forget. We can never forget the numbers and the people. I can never forget my father, who desperately tried to join his family in America and could not. The day the quota was opened, he was shipped. He was already in Auschwitz, and that was it. That's the last we heard.
So is it hard to speak about these? Does it bring back memories? I mean, you think of a family that you've lost and friends you've lost I mean, how difficult is this to bring back these memories? Or do you think it's important that we need to know so we can educate ourselves about what's happened? Does that make sense?
No, say it again.
Is it really hard to bring back these memories this morning as you're talking about the Holocaust? You're remembering your father and people, loved ones you lost. Is it difficult for you to do this?
It is difficult. It is difficult, but I felt it was my duty. I have to let the world know once more what happened, because I'm afraid that after my generation, who is going to tell? Who is going to tell this? Anybody who did not experience this will be able to read about it, and that will not be the same as having to live through it. The terrible, terrible prejudice. Why were Jews accused of terrible crimes they never committed? Why were they killed? 6 million of them. It wasn't only Jews, it was gypsies and others that were killed. Hitler wanted to create a master race. And I guess when you see Germans and Austrians, who, as you mentioned before, are very cultured people, really, and they love good music, they love good food, they are human, but during Hitler's time, they were not human. They became beasts, because if one friend could kill another, or perform all kind of atrocities, then the humanity went out of them. They were no longer human. And if we can ever prevent that in the future, then that's what we must do and remember the Holocaust.
Well, how has it all affected your faith?
The what?
Your faith. How has it affected your faith in God? Through the years, have you gone to the synagogue, and your spiritual life has been important to you? You have to wonder, you have to ask the questions, where is God in all of this? Where is God when such an atrocity happens?
Who started all the atrocities?
Or with your faith, how has your faith survived through all of this, through the Holocaust? Your faith in God, your faith in humanity? How have you maintained hope for a better future?
It was no longer humanity, really. There was a basic change in people. It was no longer humanity. I remember an occasion when food was running short for Jewish families in Vienna, and my mother sent me there was a soup kitchen that was established, and my mother sent me with 2 pots to the soup kitchen because she was afraid we won't have enough food anymore. I hated to go there. I hated the smell of the food, and I hated to smell scared people who were all standing there with their pots, hoping to get a lifeline one more day.
So you have a lot of young people out in the audience scattered around the world listening to you right now. What do you think is really essential and important about HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day? What do you want them to take from this, your talk this morning?
What do I expect of these days? Is that the question?
Yes, what do you expect people to learn from today, particularly the young students at Taft who are around the world, scattered around the world? Here we're listening to your story as a Holocaust survivor. What's really essential and important? What can we take away to build a better world, a more loving, compassionate, caring world for everyone? What can we do?
Well, there is another thing, that the textbooks in German schools for years never included the Holocaust, because I guess education didn't want the students to know what their grandfathers did to so many people. It was a blank in the German textbooks for years, until one courageous teacher came, and in fact I met him when I was in Wiesbaden with my husband, where he was born. And he said, that can't go on, it's part of history. They have to know, no matter how terrible it is, they have to know what their grandfathers and grandmothers and that generation did to the Jewish people. And so it must be with shame that generation read about the atrocities of their own kin. Is it a better world? I don't know. Is it going to be a better world after this tragedy right now that we're going through? Let's hope, because we're missing a lot of people already. Let's hope that this nightmare will go away and make us people better people.
Well, with people like you in the world, still here with us at 94, you've made it a better world for many years, what you survived and been through. And there's a line from a poem by Pablo Neruda that comes to mind, that you can pick all the flowers, but you can't stop the spring from coming. And I look around in this coronavirus and some of these tragedies in history, and I still see the spring coming. I still see the flowers coming. I see the birds singing. So there's always hope, isn't there? There's always hope. There's always love. And it's a matter of what we do as human beings. It's our intentions each day as we wake up, right? To practice a way of compassion and love. Not easy in this world. You know, our hearts and minds go out to these essential workers. There's so many, from the doctors and nurses to the people stocking the shelves and driving buses, to putting themselves in the line for those of us who are fortunate enough to be at home and work from home in the safety of home. So, but isn't it, so what, just a closing statement, what gives you hope? What gives you hope for your grandchildren and great-grandchildren?
What do I hope for them?
Yes, what do you hope for them?
I hope for them a better world without prejudice, a better world where you don't have to be afraid of little bugs that you can't see that kill so many people. Will there ever be a world where you don't have to be afraid of anything? I tell you what you have to be afraid of. When you come into Watermark and you see everybody wearing the mask, you think you're in a monster den. That you have to be afraid of, but it's hard. My husband too was also a refugee. My husband and I never spoke to our children about the Holocaust until they were much older, because we were afraid that they would think that someday it's going to happen to them. Thank God it didn't. Thank God they are wonderful people and surviving all this. And they certainly heard from me what we went through. And my great-grandchildren will hopefully be in a good world. And your twins.
And my twins, thank you. I can't tell you what a delight it's been to get to know you and be with you in the past 2 weeks. And I'm looking forward to the day when the coronavirus passes and we can meet in person. And this has been a really important talk that you've given today. And I'm just mindful of growing up. We didn't learn anything about the Holocaust in the 60s and 70s. And it wasn't until I actually used a lot of Holocaust literature in an ethics course I taught years ago in Boston that I learned a lot about things that I didn't get in my education here in the United States. So it's so fundamentally important that we remember this day and speak about it often, to deal with issues of anti-Semitism, prejudice, hatred, and all the challenges we have in this, at the same time, this incredibly beautiful world. But it's also got serious problems. And so thank you. Thank you so much, and wish you many blessings, God's blessings. And
thank you. I am very thrilled to be able to have been speaking to, I don't know how many people, but whatever. And it was a pleasure meeting you, Chaplain. And blessings, as you said, to you too.
God bless you all. Wonderful to have John Albert with us, and Rabbi Eric Polikoff, a good friend I've worked with for many years now. I wish all of you well, and I hope we can all get together at some point in the future on it.
Amen.
So
thank you very much for the honor.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for the honor.
Thank you.
So with that, I'm signing off. Take care, everybody. Be safe. Be well.
Bye, everybody.